Welcome to my remove the braces tutorial. Oh, let me turn that off. Just listening to throwbacks. Anyway, so I have recorded this so many times, failed so many times. I hope this really works out because I'm trying really, really hard for you guys. I really want you to learn something, to take something away. And I hope I do a good enough job for you guys. Okay. First thing I want you to do before anything is go to Photoshop up at the top. This is version 2020. Today is March 29th, 2023, but I'm using an older version. So you're going to want to go to Photoshop, Preferences, and Performance. We're going to look over here at the history states. I think by default it's set to 50, but you're going to want to bump that all the way up to 1,000. What this does is it creates a log 1,000 steps long. So if you ever need to come back to something that you did before, and make those older changes new, then you can do that. If you only have 50 history states, then you lose them much more quickly. Okay, so this is my stock photo image of a girl. It was actually really hard to find a nice photo of a girl with braces. And this is the final result. So I'm going to show you in as little steps as possible how to get there. And also one thing I want to say is the reason I'm making this video is I was watching an Instagram reel and there was a photographer and he was like, oh my gosh, the client wants me to edit every single photo in the shoot. Oh, I'm stressing out. And I did a stitch saying, I love those requests to edit all the photographs because that's just money. I charge an a la carte rate to make changes to every single image. My a la carte rate starts at about $25 per image and it goes up from there depending on the request. So when you're first starting out, some of the mistakes you may make is, oh, I'll just go ahead and Photoshop them all for free. Like I saw somebody commented that they offered to take somebody's scrunchie off of all the images. I mean, to that person, I would say, hey, is it really that important to you to have that bracelet removed or scrunchie removed from all of your images? As a photographer, if I were shooting, I would have looked down. I always look at things that somebody's going to want me to Photoshop out. And I'll say, oh, are you sure you want your glasses on? Are you sure that you don't need to take your cell phone out of your pocket? I usually just make those demands, like remove the cell phone, take off your glasses, like sunglasses or something. And do you want your scrunchie on your arm? Sometimes I'll say, do you want your Apple Watch on? Sometimes it can detract. Sometimes it can be cool. Anyways, I digress. I do that sometimes. Hopefully you'll be able to skip to the parts that you need. Sometimes sprinkled in throughout this video, I will give helpful hints and tips. Feel free to also speed this up later on, but I'm going to go at my pace and hopefully you enjoy it. Okay, this is the final result. So how do we get there? The most important part of making something seem seamless and realistic is finding the correct image. Now, this image here, I went through, maybe like 4 or 5 other images just to try to get to the right one. The other ones, pushing and pulling too much, it just wasn't working. So if you find yourself fighting too much or the end result just does not look realistic, just scrap it. And sometimes you might have to start over. So I did find this pair of teeth that worked the best for this stock image model. And what I do is, the first thing I do is I will put that on a new layer. I've already gone ahead and done that. Basically, you can just, you can hit place. Usually what I do is I just open it up in a new tab and then double click it, drop it in, move it over. However you want to get it in there. There's a few ways, but moving on, assuming that you know how to do that. I always label my layers. So this one says teeth and this one says orthodontics. That's the original. Here's my background layer. You want to do this because even though it is a few steps, a few extra steps that you have to take, you're going to want to remember what these layers are the next time you go to use them. And you're not going to want to try to guess. If you label them properly, this source file, having all these layers saved as PSD, is how you'll keep everything organized. Also, if you need to transfer this to another graphic designer, then they're going to not have to guess what each layer is. Like these little images here are very tiny. They may not know that's like the finished one. So labeling it is huge. It's a really big deal. It's just helping everybody to stay organized. Okay, so meat and potatoes. Let's get started. So you're going to want to go to the layer that you are going to be making the, that you're going to be borrowing the new set of teeth. Let me turn off the old ones. When you go to the layer that has the teeth that you're going to select, there's a few ways you can do this. One way is you can use the quick select tool. And what that does is, I'll zoom in for you. Zoom in is Command or Control on a PC, Command plus on a Mac. And your cursor here, you can make bigger or smaller with the right and left bracket. And you can see kind of in the middle, just trust me, it's really tiny, but there's a little plus sign right there. If you hold down the Option or Alt key on a PC, it turns into a, that's weird. Oh, I haven't selected anything yet. Okay. Let's select something. If you hold down the Option key, then you click away, it deselects something that you don't want. So let's Command D deselect and start over, and do your best to select just the teeth. Now, if you run into this problem, which is why I'm not using this tool for this particular task, it has gone ahead and selected everything. So I hit undo, realize that's not my tool because this image is too low resolution. And you can either go to the polygonal lasso tool or the lasso tool. The lasso tool, basically you have to click, hold, and drag around the teeth like that. Or, let me deselect. If you use the polygonal lasso, that one's really cool because you can click, it'll make each point sticky, and you don't have to hold down the mouse. You can just click, click, click like this, and you can make kind of pointy little selections there, and then you bring it around to the same point. Another cool thing about the polygonal lasso is that if you are done selecting, say you're over here, you can double click and it will automatically close the path. Okay, so let me do a quick selection around the teeth. If I'm giving too much detail, it's just because I don't really know the skill level of people who are watching this. I'm hoping to encompass everybody. Hopefully everybody can learn something. If this is a refresher for you, or you already know these things, then maybe this video ain't for you. So, okay. Another way to do the selection is to refine it. So say I have a pretty good selection here, but I want to take it a little bit more detailed. Up at the top there, it says select and mask, and making sure that you're on the selected layer of just the teeth that you need. She came up, but she's not, that's not what's selected. Everything in red is your selection, and you can drop the opacity to see what you selected. Radius, and by clicking Smart Radius, you enable that feature, and it can do an even smarter job. The algorithm inside can even find what you're trying to do. So that's just a little bit about the select and mask tool. Okay, so let's just say I like this selection right now. What I will do then is say, okay, I really want to use this selection. That looks great. So you hit Command J on the keyboard. And what that's saying is, hey, make me a new fresh layer, but also include my selection. So you can hide your full image, and what you'll be left with is this version of the teeth. And from here, I would go to the move tool, move it into place. Hitting the space bar and clicking and dragging the artboard will move it around. And I'm constantly doing Command plus and minus to zoom in and out. Like that's how I work very quickly. Next thing you're going to want to do is do select Command T for the transform box and right click it to flip it horizontal because it was backwards to her teeth. Then you can turn your mouse into the double arrow cursor and rotate it. Then you can hold the Option or Alt key on a PC and scale while keeping the ratio uniform. And then just try to kind of get it in place a little bit. She looks very funny with the big teeth like that. Ha ha ha. So then I get it down kind of into place where it starts to look more natural in size. I think that's about right. And then to even further get this into shape, you can hit the Command or Control button on the PC, Command on a Mac, and grab an individual corner and skew that into better shape. Okay. I kind of like that. I think that's looking all right so far. Okay. These are not her teeth. So you might want to discuss that with the client first. Let's just say there's a pretend scenario where the client is like, hey, I'm a senior. I need my senior pictures. I'm not getting my braces off until next month, but the senior pictures are today. I really want to see my senior pictures in the yearbook without my braces. Can you please do that? Please, please, please. I will say yes to making modifications of things that are not permanent. Ethically, I will decline things where people say something like, oh, and this actually did happen. This is something I declined. My husband, who's pretty bald, completely bald, he's did not have much hair on top. Oh, can you please like replace his hair and put a whole bunch of hair on his head? They were maternity photos, so I didn't feel ethically it made sense to have that, as it was not necessary. It was completely cosmetic request, and it wouldn't make sense for her to look back on those images, having her husband not look like how he really did at that time. Just many, many things. Also, I really didn't have enough hair to sample. He only had some hair on the side. I would have had to find somebody else's hair that wasn't his. You make the call. Depending on your skill level, if you feel like you can do it, that's your call. But I prefer things to have like a natural result. So braces, she might have been photographed on a day that, if she had waited a month for the photo shoot, then she wouldn't have had braces on and she would have beautiful teeth. You can also go back and say, hey, you know what? After you take your photos, I'll retake your photos without your braces on, and then I'll put your real teeth on. And maybe this is a temporary solution. So either way, there's a lot of things to discuss. Make sure you get paid up front. I think I forgot to say that. Make sure you get paid up front. Do not do this for free. This is a very expert skill. If the clients could do this themselves, they wouldn't be asking you, and they don't want your business to fail. So don't let them make you think that you have to do this for free or you'll lose their business. If they weren't going to pay you, that's not real business anyway. Okay. So the next step from here is like, okay, the teeth look like they're pretty well in place and I'm kind of liking the way they look, but her lips need to be in front of her teeth. So now what we're going to do is create the illusion that the teeth are behind the lips. It's really hard to see where the lips start and end and where they all are. So here's how I solve that problem. You turn off the teeth layer by clicking on the eyeball. Go back to I should delete that one. Go back to the original layer here. And if you're not sure that it's the correct layer, you can click the eyeball and toggle it on and off. Once you know that is the correct layer, I like to zoom in as far as I can to get it really detailed. And then I will use the polygonal lasso because it makes kind of a more accurate selection, and I don't have to hold onto the mouse and worry about where my mouse placement is. So just do your best to select the lips. Keep in mind, if you double click, it will, like I said, close the path. So just make slower clicks so you don't double click. And then I'm rushing a little bit, but you'll do a much better job. This is just for, education purposes. Hopefully you understand the concept. Okay. Now the lips are selected. You want to go back to the teeth layer and show them. Where are they? Oops. Sorry. There. And wait, no. That was my old one. I had that. I had done this for you guys before in the previous video that I deleted. And frustratingly, this is like the 1000th time that I've recorded this. So I have some other layers from previous videos. All right, now, with the teeth layer selected, you're going to create a mask. It's inverted. Don't worry about that. Hit Command I. And now everything that you selected is hidden. If you don't understand about masks, that is a feature you cannot afford to miss. The mask is basically saying, hey, show these pixels and hide those pixels. It's represented by a white box. You get your brush tool by touching by hitting B on the keyboard, and then making sure that you've got the black and white colors in your color picker. You can, let's do that first. You can hide the pixels like this. And if you hit X, it will change the black to white, and you can show. Also, the opacity changes how much you show or hide. So make sure that your opacity is set to 100% if that's what works for you, if you're trying to hide things. Please go back or watch somebody else's video, because I don't have a video about masks yet. I could make that if you want me to, because that's like a whole topic. But basically what you're trying to do is hide. The biggest rookie mistake that, I used to make it too, I think everyone's kind of guilty of it in the beginning, is let's just say you're on your layer and you grab the erase tool instead. And you're like, oh, okay, well, I want to erase this teeth here to make it look like the lips are here. And let's erase that. And let's erase this because I don't like those teeth down there. Those pixels are gone. This is your source file. You need to retain as much data and information as possible. So if you're by default using the erase tool, I would just get out of that habit completely. You almost never need to use the erase tool, because the mask tool does that while retaining the information from the pixels. So I highly recommend just get out of the idea of the eraser tool because you're afraid maybe perhaps of using the mask. Just learn the mask. It's simple, black and white, literally. Let me label this new teeth. And we're just about done, but I think that it's not looking right because these were photographed by two different people in two different places, and there's a disconnect there. I don't like how the teeth are a different color, they're a different shade. So to combat that, turn off the curves. To combat that, there's a few ways to do that. What I like to do is I like to use adjustments. And so if you don't have that open, you go to Window and click on Adjustments. If you can't see one of your palettes here, it may be hidden off screen. So you might want to, you can always go to Window and arrange your workspace and pull that in. Maybe you have like two monitors for some reason, and then you switched back to one, or whatever the case. Sometimes they go off screen and they're hard to find. Okay. The first one I will start with is curves. So right here in this adjustments panel is the curves. So you click on that and it creates curves. But if you just attempt to change the curves right now, it's going to make that application to the entire artboard. So what you'll want to do is hit Option Command G, and then therefore it will apply it. You can see this little arrow down. It applies it to just the teeth layer. So it's really important. This image doesn't really need too much adjusting on the curves, and I like to keep it as natural as possible. So I just leave it about like that. And then I would also like to apply the levels right there. And Option Command G, so that it's also just applied to the teeth. Levels is by far my favorite panel because it isolates the highlights up here, the midtones here, and then the shadows here. You can also say, hey, I don't want as much black in here, and then maybe reduce how much white. I don't want her teeth looking too fake. The clients may say, oh, make my teeth bright white. That's okay. It's up to you and your discretion. And it's your work. It's your work at the end of the day that's out there that the clients are going to be sharing. For me, the clients come to me because I like to give the most natural result possible. This is actually very close to something like my style of photography. Just like nice, bright, clean. Okay. So yeah. So play with the sliders and see what works best for you. Obviously, I can see that the edge is not as refined. I would go back in and fix that. Let's just go ahead and do that if you want to learn how. But I'm thinking that I'm liking the teeth. I don't want to take too much detail away because then you won't be able to see in between. And yeah, also do a little perspective. So Command minus, pull far back, and you can see. I think they look a little big. All these choices that you make when you look at your work, go back to your layer, select the pixels and not the mask, then hit Command T and drop it down a little if you don't like how it looks. You can always play with it because you haven't destroyed any of the pixels. You've only hidden them. See how I might want some of the pixel information back. Then I go to my mask, hit the brush tool, and paint that back in. It was looking like there's like this line here and maybe a little back in there to really close that space up. That's looking pretty realistic, I think. Close enough. You can always ask the client, hey, do you like this? This is my result. What do you think? Is this working for you? I like to give them options and see, if this is something that they feel comfortable with. So I'll show them like a proof and then say, hey, how do you like this? This can be your final image unless you have any changes. Let me know. I'll email them something like that when they're done, when I'm done. And since you still have the curves adjustments and the layers adjustments here, you can double click them and continue to make your changes. Say you want to brighten them just a touch and reduce the black from it. And I think that's starting to look amazing. I like it. I like it a lot. I had done this video so many times. So let's see if I have it close. That was in the original video that I messed up. But yeah, I think it looks great. And that's that. That's pretty much how I would do it. I thank you for your patience for waiting this long for me to create this for you. And if you have any other questions, just ask me. I'm looking forward to making more videos and more content like this.